Is cheating genetic? This is a Business Insider article that I came across. There were a couple of other articles that were also talking about this subject, but I think I like this one mostly because of how accessible the writing is. So the title is, "It Turns Out Cheating Might Be Genetic. Here's what you need to know." We're going to read through this. We're going to have some commentary in between. I'd love to hear your thoughts, so don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and comment. Be a part of the conversation because we're learning. We're doing better than previous generations because we had more information in our hands, right? No hate to the older generations. Y'all, information just was not this accessible. Right. So let's dive in. But before we do, hi, for those of you who are new here, my name is Shayna. I'm a journalist. I talk a lot about decentering men, child-free living, the intersections of all of those things. And I think that's all. I think that's what I do on here. Yeah. But anyway, the link to this will be below if you would like to have your own little research moment. So let's read along together and have a discussion. Early research suggests 20% of your personality is hereditary, but most people have never stopped to wonder what's included in that 20%. Licensed clinical psychotherapist Dr. Leslie Beth Wish said emotions and temperaments have a genetic component, but what about the tendency to be unfaithful? Is cheating genetic or is it a choice? The answer is complicated. Cheating can be absorbed from your parents, siblings, and family. Let's keep me right over here. Wish told Insider that cheating can be maladaptive behavior, something you develop as a negative response to feeling unhappy in a relationship, but it can also be something you absorb from your parents, older siblings, and other family members and caretakers. As a child, you can see how your caretakers deal with their anxiety, depression, and unhappiness. Wish said, if your mother over 8 or your father cheated on your mother, you see that behavior, you see your parents' moods, you learn without knowing that you are learning about ways to manage feelings. There's a possible relationship between a particular gene and the inclination to cheat. We will dive into that in a second. While I recognize the whole nature versus nurture conversation will be going on for as long as humanity exists, we cannot deny that the first society a person experiences is the society of the home. And you learn the rules of that society and then impose them onto the larger society that you eventually enter into, be that your preschool, be that your religious community, be that the playground, whatever it is, right? And you don't have to have all of the words available to you, especially as a child, because the brain grows the most in those first 12 months of life. I think it's actually the first 2 years, but I'm definitely sure those first 12 months. There's a documentary about this on Netflix called Babies that I personally adore. It is fascinating and it teaches us so much about the way that our brains put reality and existence together. 10 out of 10 recommend. Whether you have children or not, 10 out of 10 recommend. But when it comes to, you don't have to know that your parent, you don't have to know what cheating is to know that there's secrecy afoot within the house, to know that, oh, I feel like I shouldn't tell mommy that I saw daddy doing this. I feel like I'm in, you register the feeling. And once that feeling becomes normalized, then when you get older, you continue to normalize that feeling because that feeling feels like home. So I would imagine for a lot of people who cheating in some deep foundational way probably feels like home, especially if you grew up in a house of cheaters. Not necessarily saying everybody cheated, but if cheating was a part of your home, then cheating feels like home. Now let's talk about this gene. Scientists have a hunch that the desire to cheat would be linked back to something called the dopamine receptor DRD4. Sounds like DDR. Anyway, polymorphism, aka the thrill-seeking gene, that is also called out as the gene responsible for alcoholism and gambling addictions. In a 2010 study performed by researchers at Binghamton University in New York, it was found that participants who possessed a specific kind of DRD4 gene were more likely to cheat. For their study, SUNY doctoral diversity fellow and lead investigator Justin Garcia recruited 181 young adults. Participants were asked to complete a questionnaire about their sexual behaviors, as well as to submit a DNA sample, which would be tested to determine in order to determine the variation of DRD4 in their DNA. According to the teams, right up at the top, according to the team's findings published in the journal PLOS1, everyone has DRD4, but the more you have, the more prone you are to thrill seeking. In other words, you could be drawn to the temptation of things you probably shouldn't be, like cheating, for no other reason than because you want to feel the thrill associated with it. Garcia told ABC News it all goes back to the release of dopamine, aka the happy hormone. Humans are naturally drawn to activities that make them feel pleasure, but according to Garcia, people who possess this certain DRD4 gene require more than the average person. People with the DRD4 gene need more stimuli to feel satiated, Garcia said. Some say, wow, that was a rush after jumping out of a plane. Others ask, when is the plane going back up? Next section. Even if you're predisposed to the thrill gene, that doesn't necessarily mean that you'll act on your impulses. Before we get into this section right here, let's take a quick break to discuss another aspect of what we have just read about the DRD4 gene. Now, I also recognize that another way of looking at this is some people have an abundance of this gene and other people resonate with that kind of anxiety. Some people call it butterflies. Some people say, oh, wow, I really want, and to a degree, I understand, like some people want somebody that's adventurous, somebody that takes them out of their box. Some people want all of these things, right? Which are not essentially bad things, but registering, hey, this kind of nervousness, some people that grow up in these households recreate it in themselves. They say, okay, this kind of thrill, this kind of like elevated level of be that fear or excitement or whatever, is something that I want to feel consistently. Not a healthy space to be in, but whatever. And then there are other people, mind you, growing up in like a household, there are babies that feel that. Some people recreate it, and then some people are drawn to it. Some people say, I'm going to make myself feel this way so I feel at home. And then other people say, while I might not recreate that for myself, I am drawn to this because people that exhibit this kind of behavior feel like home. For both of these kinds of people, for both of these babies, these are people who grew up in houses that were unhealthy in multiple kinds of ways. And in a way, I'm curious about this. Is that not another manifestation of what this kind of gene could be? While you might not be the one putting your life in danger, jumping out of planes, wrestling gators, I don't know, other booga activities, right? While you might not be that person, if you are constantly putting yourself in intimate spaces with somebody that is consistently putting themselves on the line, their excitement anxiety is your excitement anxiety. It's giving another manifestation of it. While you will definitely live to see another day, your nervous system is not okay. Given the results of the study, it seems that it may be fair to say some cheaters really can't help themselves. Yikes. But because there is such limited supply of scientific evidence to support this claim, experts say you shouldn't make this assumption. Up at the top, Robert Weiss, MSW, author of Out of the Doghouse, told Insider that while a small group of people is predisposed to the thrill gene, that doesn't necessarily mean this group has to act on those sorts of impulses. Plenty of people are genetically predisposed toward alcoholism, but only a small percentage become alcoholic because many other factors are in play: environment, self-will, life experience, resiliency to turmoil, etc. Weiss said, the same is true with genetic predisposition toward infidelity and promiscuity. Other factors are in play. Regardless of our genetics, we maintain free will when it comes to sexual behaviors. We always have a choice. I love that they ended this article in this way for multiple reasons. One is because the amount of men that we hear, and let me be more specific, the amount of boogas that we hear on a consistent basis online and in reality saying, oh, well, men cheat. Oh, well, you shouldn't expect men to be monogamous. Oh, well, you shouldn't. Let me move myself. We always have a choice. And this is not to say, like, there are people that are polyamorous, right? This is not talking about that. This is not talking about that community at all. What I am talking about is I'm talking about the people who cannot exhibit self-control in a relationship. And let's say that you figure out that you are polyamorous while you're in a monogamous relationship, because we always have a choice. We always have the ability to gain new skills, like effective communication, like honesty. If you're in that situation to say, hey, I'm so sorry, I've learned this thing about myself. This kind of relationship is not what I need anymore. I realize that I'm more interested in a polyamorous relationship and whatever. These kinds of skills are things that people have access to. So there is that. And then the people that realize that would then go and find other people who want the same things that they want, because they have the skills to go and find those people, and the reality about themselves is in their hands. They say, okay, I know this about myself. Let me go find somebody complimentary. Right. Like grown-ups. And while cheating can run in people's families, and they don't necessarily have to recreate that pattern in themselves, do I know a lot of people who were raised by cheaters, who then became cheaters, who then birthed cheaters? Yes. Do I personally think that the likelihood of somebody being a cheater rises exponentially, especially if it's a man? When there was cheating in the house, when mom learned about the cheating and stayed, and then tried to make everything pretty and socially acceptable. Yes. Why? Because we as humans, as people, as creatures that love a pattern, that lets the young boy, soon to become a young man, soon to become a man and potentially a booga, what that precedent sets is, okay, dad cheats and everything is still great. I was nervous because I thought something bad was. But now it's like, whoa, I didn't even know this was an option. Living with a chronic cheater, I think, is a different kind of trauma for the entire family. But I also think that for a lot of young men, boys, whatever, who it does something in their brain. It does something terrifying to their baby brains. So what to do with this information? I think that one of the most helpful things to do with this kind of information, if you are dating, if you are interested in men, whatever, right, is not just to ask, I would recommend, let me rephrase this. Let me say what I do. When I am dating somebody seriously, which I have not for a minute because, but when I am seriously dating somebody and I'm getting to know them, within that process, obviously you need to ask the deep questions about their family, about what growing up was, about the relationship that they have with their mom, about the relationship that they have with their dad, about their parents' relationship to each other. If their parents split, why did they split? Which parent did you spend a lot of time with? Which parent did you spend the most time with? If there was infidelity in the reason why they split, what do you understand about that? How does that affect you? Does it affect you? These kinds of, but also if there was cheating within the household and mom and dad stayed together, to me, it's a red flag. Mom and dad stayed together. What did that look like for you growing up? What did that teach you about relationships? What did that teach you about womanhood? What did that teach you about motherhood? What did that teach you about fatherhood? What did that teach you about what it means to be a man? I like asking questions, even if I've already, he could say whatever he wants to say, but truly at that point, the moment that I personally hear them, there's cheating, and then they stay together. It's basically laying out a terrifying game plan of because that's what that person expects from family relations. And I'm too delicate, and I talk way too much. I haven't fought anybody yet, but I could. I believe in myself. So with this information, I am curious, what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts with what we have learned, what we have discussed today? I would love to hear about them. Please type them away in the comment section, and I will talk to you guys later. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I'm looking at you. Looking at you. All right, bye.